my biggest lesson so far is that mental and spiritual don't exist separately from physical. And that's where I keep seeing over and over. They exist together. They influence each other greatly, right? So the emotions we experience, beliefs that we have, right? Mindset in general, the lifestyle that we have, I would say traumas and responses, like triggers that we have, all of this and our behavior kind of goes together with the physical aspect of the body. And that will determine what kind of disease we'll have.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Welcome back to What the Gut. Today on the podcast, I have Polina LeRoy. Polina is a medical intuitive and holistic wellness coach who has been helping women restore their physical and mental health since 2012 through her unique mind, body, spirit approach. Polina, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here today. Now, I know that, your journey really began with this personal mission to understand cancer after losing your father. And along the way, you also gained a deeper understanding of autoimmune conditions and discovered different and valuable insights into postpartum, for your own experience with postpartum depression. I know that through our own experiences, we always end up learning a lot. And that's where just the beauty of some of these really hard experiences can come. But I would love for you to just start off and share how all of your experiences helped shape your passion for really understanding health and how it led you to become a medical intuitive.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I totally agree with you that when you go through some hardships, right, whatever it is, like losing your loved one or going through disease by yourself, it feels so hard. And I think probably the last thing we think about how we're going to help others,
Yeah.
but it is what happens, right? You have to go through this hero's journey by yourself in
Right.
order to be able to help others.
Yeah.
Because that's how we gain those insights. That's how we learn about this other side. And that what makes us, I think, masters in a way, right? That we can help
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember it was so hard for all of us to see my father struggling with cancer and eventually dying. And we felt so helpless, right? Powerless. Like you want to try to do the best you can to help, but we didn't know how. And I don't remember thinking about it, but I think subconsciously I decided that I have to figure out what it is because it had such a tremendous impact on our lives. And I thought, I want to find out what it is. I want to know what the beast is and how to deal with it in order to protect myself and my family, my loved
Yeah.
ones. I wanted to know what it is. And when it happened, I was still, in academia and I was doing research and I was teaching and had nothing to do with body. Even more so, I was afraid of everything that's happening in the body. And I was just trying to stay away from it. Yeah. But then when I realized that I can see inside the body and I can sense what's happening there, and turned out I could be pretty accurate, I kind of thought, okay, I will give it a chance. I will give it a try. I will see what my intuition can show me. What else? And step by step, it kind of sucked me in. And 2 years after my father's death, I found myself actually seeing my first client as a medical intuitive. People started coming to me, mostly women. And the first couple of years, I had women coming to me with cancer. And that's how I trusted the universe. I trusted that the people who I can help will find me and they will come to me. And if they come to me, that I probably can help them in some way. And so what I
Yeah.
would do, I would just go inside their bodies and I would ask the God or the creator just to guide me and show me what's happening in their bodies and how I can help them, what I can give them. And I started learning about cancer more and more. With each client, I would go a little deeper. And not all my first healing stories were successful, and some of my patients died from cancer. But at the same time, I was learning more and more about it. And I realized that it is much more complicated than we, I guess, believe, because even when you know what's causing cancer on the physical level, like I know pretty clear right now what's happening on the physical level and I can explain and I know how to address, but cancer is such a thing. It also happens on the spiritual level, right? And some people choose this disease as a way to leave this world. And if
Mhm.
that's a decision they make, no matter what we do on the physical level, it's not going to change it.
Right.
Yeah. So dealing with the free will of patients is one of the, I guess, most difficult aspects still to this day, because you can give people protocol how to heal, but if they don't want to do the protocol, if they don't want to follow your guidance, or if they don't want to live because the environment they're in feels unbearable to them, they're still going to use this as a way out.
Right. It's interesting just how the diagnosis of cancer, one can get that and it completely consume them and
Hmm.
change their mental state and everything. Whereas you might have somebody else who's never been given the diagnosis, but might have cancer and not know it and live
Hmm.
a completely different lifestyle. And so it's so much of it is mindset and, like you said, like spiritual and just the intuitive nature of it. And that's something that I'm learning more about too. And that's very interesting. And I know, Paulina, you've also worked with many women with like autoimmune conditions and postpartum challenges. So I'm curious, what are some of the most surprising like patterns or insights that you've really uncovered through working with women like that?
Well, I would say in general, my biggest lesson so far is that mental and spiritual don't exist separately from physical. And that's where I keep seeing over and over. They exist together, they influence each other greatly, right? So the emotions we experience, beliefs that we have, right? Mindset in general, the lifestyle that we have, I would say traumas and responses like triggers that we have, all of this and our behavior kind of goes together with the physical aspect of the body. And that will determine what kind of disease we'll have. For example, if a woman has a problem speaking up her truth, right? Sharing her truth, being open about what she feels and what she thinks, that makes thyroid vulnerable to disease. And that
Mhm.
makes it most likely for women to develop autoimmune condition of thyroid, like Hashimoto thyroiditis, for example, right? Because the emotional aspect makes certain organs vulnerable to viral conditions. And that will kind of determine where the virus will go and where they will feel most welcomed in the body. And that's
Right.
why women with the same viral condition inside the body will develop different autoimmune conditions because different organs will feel vulnerable based on what we feel and how we act in our lives. So I would
Yeah.
say negative emotions like resentment or hatred or anger can make our organs vulnerable. For some women, it will be throat and thyroid. For some women, it will be breast. For some women, it will be reproductive organs, right, or digestive system, but emotional landscape will determine where exactly the viral condition will feel most
Yeah.
affected.
And I mean, it's the energy of it too, right? Like the
Mhm, mhm,
energy of what you're putting all your effort into or not giving enough energy to, and then where that disease state might occur. It's
mhm.
and your perspective is, I know you describe it as like intuitive and sometimes controversial. So, like, can you elaborate any more on how your approach differs from traditional methods of really understanding the body?
Well, first of all, I try to stay away from Google any information about certain conditions because I know how misleading it can be. I
Yeah.
used to do it when I would have my first clients coming to me with conditions that I didn't know anything about. I would try to Google it and find out more before working with them, just to have deeper understanding. But then I realized how misleading it is. And it actually would take me to a very long detour
Yeah.
if I have a, preconceived kind of notion about what it is, it kind of blinds me and I don't see what reality that's happening in the body. So
Right.
now for many years, I try to stay away from Google and I don't see anything because I know it will take me the wrong path, most likely. So for example, about autoimmune conditions, if you read what it says it's a body attacking itself. Whereas in my experience, when I go inside the body, I can see virus there.
Mhm.
And I was surprised when I saw it. Well, why nobody's saying that there's a virus in the body? And I can see this virus in the body. And I can see how
Right.
immune system is attacking the virus. And it's not attacking the body. And it's
Right.
attacking the virus. And so when I started implementing an antiviral approach, and I also in my practice, I communicate to virus because virus is a, entity. It has its own spirit and you can talk to it. It has its own consciousness and
Yeah.
I can talk to it and I can ask, like, what are you doing in this body?
Yeah.
What keeps you in this body? And what can we do in order to help you to leave this body? Right? What would make you leave this body and find another place to be? So you can talk to virus and virus, give you answers. And with working many women with autoimmune conditions, I actually see patterns, right? What common these women have in their life. And
Yeah.
now, if I have a new person coming to me with autoimmune conditions, I can predict what kind of lifestyle they have, what kind of, personal, I would say, struggles they have in their life. Because most likely for women, it will be difficulties with boundaries. It's hard to
Yeah.
set boundaries with others. It's hard to take up space. It is hard to kind of step into your power and live your own life. And rather than being kind of on the side, serving others. So
Right.
that's the pattern I see in women with autoimmune conditions.
I can see that as well. And like, I want to say, like, the perspective that you take on things, I absolutely love it. And so much of the time, I'm like, I wish that I would have learned things that way. It's almost like backwards in a sense,
Mhm.
like from what you would expect. But in my training, we learn, okay, like autoimmune disease, for example, is the body attacking itself. But the more that I've studied it and seen people with it, I'm like, no, like these bodies are asking for help. They're not attacking itself. Like it's a plea for help.
Yeah.
And it's almost like distancing yourself from that textbook, right? And you don't even have to know, like you said, sometimes it's better to just not even Google. You don't have to know all of those things to just approach it in a really holistic manner and trying to communicate with what's really going on in the body. And you said some of the typical patterns that you see in people with autoimmune disease or women. The first thing that came to my mind, I was like, I wonder what some of those are. And just not being able to set boundaries was like literally the first thing I thought of too. So I'm like, okay, like I'm on the right page. But it is so interesting though, how that's the truth, like I see that in my own patients as well.
Uh-huh.
So
Amazing. Like we work with the different people, but we see the same things coming up, right?
right.
Because I believe if you're genuinely curious and interested to learn about this thing, the body will tell you. You will see those
Yes.
patterns showing up just because you want to know, you know?
Right. And if you go back, years ago, we didn't have a name for
all of these or even have all of these different diseases portray themselves in all these different ways and all these labels, right? But from the beginning of time, yeah, we had people not able to set boundaries. We had people with these patterns intact. And so it's like if you go back to just the basics of human nature and like the things that we're not doing to serve ourselves and things like that.
The problem is that we didn't have so many viruses in our environment.
Yeah.
The problem we're dealing with right now, the threats that we're dealing with is overwhelming amount of viruses in the environment. And these viruses, unfortunately, everywhere around us, we receive certain viruses while still being in the mother's womb,
Yes.
while
Just
still from parents, definitely we receive viruses. And then, we expose viruses everywhere, like through just interactions with other people. And because we're
right.
exposed to so many viruses, I think it is time for women to really understand how much more vulnerable we are to viral conditions than
Yeah.
men, right? Because of unique features our bodies have. We have lower immune system in general, and
Mhm.
that makes us more vulnerable and that makes us more prone to autoimmune conditions, right? That's why if you look at the numbers, if you look at the stats, 80% of people diagnosed with autoimmune conditions are women,
Yeah. Yeah.
not men. And there is a reason for that, right? And
Yeah.
it's a emotional, I would say, like mental reason and also physical reason. Because
Mhm.
when we menstruate, our immune system is low, like it's
Right.
pretty much non-existent. And that is the time for viral activity to spread around the body, right? It's the time for viruses to take over the body. And that is
Yeah.
why we develop these autoimmune conditions much more often than men.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, nobody's teaching us about it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, I've always heard, women are more prone to these autoimmune conditions, but why? Right? Like what are some factors that put us more at risk? That is not discussed. So that's very interesting. And I know, Paulina, like you have experienced postpartum depression firsthand. And I'm curious, like, how your own personal journey really influenced your understanding of what's happening in the body. What is some advice that you would give to women who are navigating that phase of life?
I wish I could address women before they in postpartum,
Yeah.
journey because it's not too late, but it can be prevented if we know what we're dealing with. So what I learned about my own postpartum depression and my own body is that it's not only mental and it's not as much hormonal as we're told. Whereas birth by itself and pregnancy take a huge toll on our body and our adrenal glands and the liver.
Yes.
So those are two main factors that make postpartum depression possible: the liver and adrenal glands. I would say in general, through pregnancy itself, it is a huge workload for the liver because the liver has to process and filter the blood, not only for woman, right? Not only for mother, but for baby as well, because
Mhm.
baby's liver is not functioning.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of work for the liver. And if the liver is not prepared properly, being overloaded with toxins and it started spilling them out in the bloodstream, right? It cannot contain all these toxins. Through the bloodstream, it can end up in our brain. And especially when we go through birth, this is what's happening. It is a huge shock for the whole body, for the liver. And with toxins end up in the bloodstream and eventually in the brain, it affects the parts of our brain that is responsible for emotions, right?
Mm.
And regulating emotions. That was my experience because not only felt completely, I don't know, not like without energy at all. I didn't have energy to do anything. And that was due to adrenal glands being exhausted after giving birth because adrenal glands give everything to make it happen, right? And that's why my birth was like 36 hours nonstop.
Yeah. I had a pretty long one too with
Yeah.
a few of mine.
I mean, do
Yeah.
you remember how exhausting it is? And then like, you're like, I don't have any energy. Like I
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
lift my hand.
Yeah.
I felt totally like, I don't
You're
know.
just done. You're
I'm
just done.
done.
Like you've
Yeah.
given everything. and you're done.
Yeah. And then you have this little baby that you're supposed to take care of, but how? Like,
Yeah,
I didn't have any energy. And plus sleepless nights, right? The sleep deprivation is horrible. And it doesn't give you time to actually recover those
right.
sleepless nights. And so with all of that, plus adrenaline that being released through birth is also overloading the liver. It is toxic for the liver and for the whole body. And when the liver is trying to grab as much as possible of this adrenaline, it's causing more kind of damage to the liver, right? And so we end up without energy, without adrenaline in our adrenal glands, and plus overloaded with this toxic sludge that being released, I think, by the liver in the bloodstream. And what happened to me is that I not only felt completely tired and without energy, but I also felt like I lost my ability to regulate my emotions,
I'm sure you're not alone either. Like, I mean, I definitely felt like that too, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners postpartum have felt like that as well. So,
right? And I even read that there's a term, right? Postpartum rage, which turns out to be quite common. And
yeah.
now I understand why. But back then, when I was struggling with it, I felt so ashamed of me being so out of control.
Well,
Because I
nobody prepares you for that.
exactly, and I could snap on my partner and my child, and I felt like I cannot control my emotions at all. I can not control my rage, and I was shocked. And then when I learned about what actually happening in my body, when I was able to understand that what happened to my adrenal glands and my liver, I actually started taking care of my body on the physical level,
Mm.
right? Supporting those organs. And I was able to recover from my postpartum depression because of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a similar experience, like, with my first child, and I have 3, and so
Oh,
before like, I was prepared, though. I was like, "I'm not gonna get depressed. I'm not gonna let that take over, like, the whole mood thing," because with my first child, nobody prepares you for, I mean, any of it ever, and every birth is different, but just the emotional side that came with it postpartum, and like, my doctor didn't warn me about it, like, I didn't know anything about it, and so I was like, "I'm not letting that happen again." So, really getting ahead of it and making sure that that did not happen the other times, like, I had to consciously make sure, "Okay, like, I'm gonna take care of my body ahead of time. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing all of these things." But, I mean, it was still hard, But
it's hard.
I
Yeah.
I was aware of what was going on in my body after I had experienced it, but not everybody gets to, like, get ahead of it the next time or even knows, exactly what to do. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely hard. And I'm curious, for someone who's really new at the whole concept of, like, mind, body, spirit healing, what would you say would be, like, their first step towards really getting a better understanding and connection with their body?
I think just listening to our bodies, trying to see symptoms as a way of the body to communicate to us. I think
Yeah.
any symptoms that we have, it's the body's communicating something to us.
Mhm.
Where we have a dark spots on the skin, it's the body communicating to us what's going on inside. Whatever we have acne, again, it's a body way of communicating to us what's happening. Whenever we feel fatigue, it's also a way of body to communicate what's happening. I think if we start paying attention to those symptoms and really try to understand what's happening and maybe even pay attention to what kind of food cause you certain symptoms, right? Because
Yeah.
I think when we start paying really attention, we can notice that. Because I noticed how gluten and dairy cause symptoms in my body. Now
Yeah.
I know why it is happening because inflammatory foods and they contribute to inflammation in the body. But back in the day, I didn't know. And so I didn't know why some people don't eat gluten. Like I, I was quite judgy on sadly, but I was quite judgy. Why would you eat pizza? It's not, normal pizza. Why everybody eat it? Why can't you? Now I know that if we pay attention to our bodies, we can notice the difference that it makes when you eat gluten or a dairy, because it is causing increase in inflammation. Right now, if I go, for example, to my family for holidays and we eat during the holidays all the food that kind of I know I'm not supposed to eat, I know I
Yeah.
will end up with certain inflammatory symptoms. Yeah.
Right.
I will have like sciatica pain. I will have like shoulder pain. And I know that it is
Crazy.
inflammation that those foods actually cause in
Yeah.
your body. And so I think we start paying attention to this and listening to our bodies and reading the symptoms, right? We can become masters of our bodies. And that's what I, recommend. I see the goal of my work is to help women to reconnect to their bodies, to understand their bodies, because the whole system, when we go to someone else, to tell us what's happening, I personally kind of don't like it. I disagree with it because I think nobody can know your body more than you.
Yeah. I love how you worded that though. Like, I mean, that's what our society's turned into though, is we go to other people to
Hmm.
tell us what's going on with our own body. I mean, so much of it we can intuitively listen to and connect with and figure out, what is it? What do you need?
Yeah.
But obviously there's some things that we don't know, but that's something that with my patients I really try to emphasize, and I always tell them like, you know yourself so much better than me. I
Right.
might have the knowledge of XYZ and I can share that with you. But, this is your body. Like it's your choice as far as what we do next and that kind of thing. But I do find a lot of people surprised by that approach too, which is interesting. So,
Yeah. But I like that people that come to me, they agree with me. And I think I'm happy that I attract those kind of people, who come to me because
yeah.
they're ready to drop off this wagon where your doctor knows what's going on in your body, but you cannot know. Like, you have to listen to your doctor and not yourself and not your body. So
Right.
I'm glad that I attract people who look for new approach and
Yeah.
new information.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, this has been such an awesome conversation. I'm just like so just like relaxed right now talking about it, honestly, because it's like you cannot just try to seek inward and figure out what your body's saying and like listen to yourself without just being in a calm state, you know?
Right?
Like
Yeah.
it's such an awesome concept. I really love it and appreciate you being here. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today?
I just want to share with women that I think our body is amazing. I think they are living miracles. And if we treat them with respect and with love and with care that they deserve, there's no reason for us to stay sick or to
Yeah.
be afraid of aging. The more women understand what's happening in their bodies and how to support their body, the less reason there to be afraid of aging because, usually we're afraid of aging because we're afraid to be sick, right?
Right.
And when we know how to support our bodies, oh my God, I think that it opens up so many opportunities for us to enjoy life and have
Yeah.
fun. And I think that's the goal for us actually, to enjoy life and have fun in life as much as possible. And disease, unfortunately, limits us in many ways, right? When we're sick, we can't enjoy life as much. And it definitely affects the quality of life for many, right? But if we know how to listen to our bodies and how to take care of them so they wouldn't get sick, it's, endless for us, the
Yeah.
joy we can have in this life.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Paulina. This has been just an awesome episode, very insightful. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I don't know if you would like some guidance from me. I have a guides that I developed for my patients that I'm happy to share.
Oh, yeah.
One of them is for heavy metal detox in the body. Another one is for midlife women. It's called Midlife Body Guide that tells exactly what's happening during perimenopause and how we can
Yes.
support bodies during perimenopause.
Yeah. And I'll be sure to link those in the show notes for anybody listening if y'all want to check those out.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at AllisonandWellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.
Hey there, it's Allison, and if you're anything like me, coffee is a non-negotiable part of your day. But did you know that most coffee is loaded with mold, toxins, and pesticides that could be messing up your gut and hormones? Yeah, no thanks. That's why I only drink Purity coffee. It's organic, tested for toxins, and it's packed with antioxidants that actually support your health instead of wrecking it. It's smooth, delicious, and best of all, it does not leave me feeling jittery or bloated. So if you're ready to upgrade your coffee game and support your gut at the same time, grab a bag of Purity coffee today. Your body will thank you. Oh, and because you are part of the What the Gut family, I've got a special link just for you. Just head to puritycoffee.com and use code AllisonGetsWell for 20% off your first order. Cheers to coffee that loves you back. Hey friend, let's talk about something real. Bloating, stomach pain, and fatigue. You do not have to live like this. I know because I was there too. I was frustrated, exhausted, and trying everything, but still felt miserable. And that's exactly why I created my Get Well one-on-one gut health coaching program to help women like you finally get to the root cause of your symptoms, heal your gut, and feel like yourself again. No more guessing, no more Band-Aid fixes, just real, sustainable solutions tailored to your body. So if you're ready to ditch the bloating, boost your energy, and actually enjoy food without discomfort, let's do this together. Head to AllisonGetsWell.com or reach out to me on Instagram at AllisonGetsWell to learn more and apply today. Because you deserve to feel good in your body every single day.